So how now? How now? What's next? What's up? Yes. You know, this question it's not just a question, it's actually a practice. How now? That we can carry with us and ask ourselves throughout our days, in difficult moments and joyful moments, in any moment, in a moment when you're not really sure what's going on inside, you might just ask yourself and your spirit, how now? How now? And that question opens us up to what's happening inside of us, right? How are we feeling? What's going on inside of us? As well as what might be the next thing for us to do or the path before us. How Now is also the title of our new series starting today, 3-part series. And this series is based on some gems of wisdom that I got years ago. So does that ever happen to you that, no it has, that you have somewhere along the way heard something from someone? It could have even been a striking visual or a short story, or maybe a lot of times the way it happens for me is just little pithy words that really stick with you, especially if there's some alliteration, that's nice too. And so years ago, a friend or a teacher of mine, Carol Rydell, said, you know, we have to make sure that we keep our relationships clean, clear, and current. And it has just stuck with me for so many years, that just one line and those 3 little words. Clean, clear, and current. Current. Clear and current. Yes, you got it. We can visit afterwards for more notes. So I've adapted a little bit for our purposes and for our time and for how I'm perceiving a possible answer to this question, how now? And so I'm going to change clean to close. And today's message is come in closer. And then next week, we're going to clear our paths. And then the next week, we're going to stay spiritually current. Sound good? Yes. All right, we'll take it one step at a time. So this week, as we start this series, as we move forward, I'm reminded of how in Unity, we sometimes make this joke, in New Thought in general too, that we are not so much here to comfort the afflicted as to afflict the comfortable. I know, it's kind of a groaner, but it's kind of true, isn't it? And the part that's true about that is the part that our teachings are about we've got it all inside of us, and that there is a responsibility that we take for our own journey. But sometimes it's nice to have a little comfort too, isn't it? Yeah, it's a both and. So I'm going to reach for some comfort today because I'm feeling like we could all use a little comfort. We could always use some comfort, right? So Unity's co-founder, Myrtle Fillmore, is sometimes referred to as Mother Myrtle. And Mother Myrtle, her ministry was very pastoral, at least in part. I mean, she and Charles created the whole movement, so they were both doing a lot of different things. But she was really focused in on that kind of let's help each other. In fact, one of her books is How to Let God Help You. And the other one is Myrtle Fillmore's Healing Letters, where she would respond to people's letters and write letters back to individuals to help coach them. Isn't that beautiful? So in one of these letters, she writes to this woman who's written about her young son who's very ill and isn't getting the proper nutrition. I didn't read I read the response, not the letter, so I don't know exactly all the details, but I don't think we need to know all the details. What I want to invite you to know is that her response is for all of us. So when you hear this, maybe you can take it in for yourself, particularly if you're having any health challenges, or if there's somebody you know who is, you might hold these ideas for them as well. She writes, remember now, there is nothing in that little boy's body but God. God substance, God life, God intelligence, and God love. The life of God is in your son. Everything that is needed to make him comfortable and whole and strong and happy and free is flowing into him and through him now and will continue to come, she writes. Take up this little fellow and tell him how much you love him. And tell him what a wonderful little person he is. Tell him how his little body helpers are working to make him strong and well, and how they would love to get some of those good things to eat, which you are preparing for him. Most little folks will readily get the idea of helping themselves when it is explained to them that their bodies are like lovely houses. Know this for yourself. Your body is a lovely house in which there are hundreds of little body helpers who are trained to take care of everything and are always busy doing the work that God has made them to do. All these little helpers inside of us. Isn't that sweet? And to know that those little helpers inside of you are there to help you with your health, your wealth, the harmony in your relationships, or whatever your heart may desire. And to know too, as Myrtle points out, that we have a part in it too. And the biggest part, I'm going to suggest, that we have is to draw nearer to Spirit. Draw nearer to the source of our love. In James 4:8, it says, draw nearer to God and God will draw nearer to you. Come close to God and God will come closer to you. We make it sometimes a bit complicated, don't we? But when we hear these things, it rings true, doesn't it? And when I say God, you use whatever term it is that works for you. I'm quoting scripture. I like the divine and spirit as well, or whatever it is that works for you. That source, that love itself, you could call it, that peace, whatever it is that maybe you're holding, a spiritual quality, draw near. And there it will be, waiting for you in its fullness. So how do we do it? How do we draw near to Spirit? Of course, it's already there in truth. We know there's a sense of havingness, right? We're one, in fact, with the Spirit. As we first begin to open up to our relationship with the divine and its many forms and faces and whatever ways that we might be interacting at any given time, we see it as relationship, maybe self and other, perhaps. You know, the allness of God, the surrounding space of that Spirit, and the many ways, the faces and forms in which it can take, the beloved, the friend, the mother, the father, all those different ways that we might see and shape it in our minds and hearts so that we can make connection. And then soon we move into our principle 2 in unity, and there's this sense of feeling it and knowing it and experiencing it firsthand, and we realize, I am that. I am merged with that. I am one with that I was seeking just a moment ago. But we won't know until we draw close. And then sometimes our minds and our emotions will speak to us of the untruth of separation, right? So we sometimes have to overcome that hurdle as well. That our minds and hearts will tell us of all the ways that there's an absence, there's a chasm between us to cross. And so working through that, recognizing that often our impetus in those moments when we think something is missing is to go looking all around outside of ourselves, right? In the places where there are some sources that will meet our needs, some channels from the source that will meet our needs, but there is a sense of limitation to how much we can receive from others in the world. And we look sometimes, if we're in that consciousness of missing or lack, through eyes of spiritual poverty, looking to a limited source out there. And so it's when we shift and we come in, we realize, wow, it's all there. Everything I could ever possibly need is here, now, available. So draw near, come close to God, and God will come close to you. And how do we do that? How do we come home? Well, all the different spiritual practices that you already do, that you've heard about and thought about trying, and maybe will try today as you think about how you might want to draw closer. But probably the most important piece in all of it, because it fits into any kind of practice we'd have, is a pause, a slowing down, a moment of reflection put into our day. Felicia McBarton and I, who's our programs manager and assists me at Unity here, and many of you know her, and she's very dedicated to Unity. If you're watching, Felicia, thank you. And she and I were talking the other day, and she said she had been listening to a podcast about sleep, and we were talking about how, sometimes she and I struggle with sleep, and other people struggle, a lot of people seem to struggle with sleep sometimes. She said this person said, what happens is a lot of times we're busy, and we don't take those moments of pause and reflection after we finished a project or we finished a conversation or something just happened. And so at the end of the day, we finally lie down and are still, and then our mind starts completing all of that. Can you relate to this? Yeah. But if we instead took those moments to pause and to reflect, how much more fulfilling and complete we might feel, and rested and ready to rest at the end of our day. So whatever it is that we choose to do, that if we can build in that idea that there's pause, there's slowing down, there's reflection, if it's meditation, maybe you read a verse of poetry and you let every word drop into your consciousness like a pearl. Maybe you sit down and you listen to a beautiful piece of music, just one, not a whole album, not a, just, I'm just going to take this in like a meal, Give yourself those gifts, because it's those gifts that draw us near. It's those moments of pause. It's those times of, I'm going to really drink this in. I'm going to really allow myself this gift. And then to recognize that, it's all here. Jesus said, wherever your heart is, there is your treasure also. So sometimes just a breath into the heart is enough to open us up and to go, there I am. And there is my spirit. And there is the love I was seeking a moment ago. Or the peace. I love it. The birds are singing right on cue. They're like, we get this, Jesus said, consider the ravens, right? They get it. Consider the lilies. They don't toil and spin. Consider the ravens. They don't store everything up for tomorrow. They're just here singing. Singing because they're present to the love, to the life. Oh, they're singing more. Yes. Yeah. We came home from Hawaii to look out the kitchen window and see that a hummingbird had nested. If you've seen Brenly, my wife's mobiles, we have a big mobile, and it was nested right on top of the driftwood in the middle, like it was part of it. And that hummingbird has been so steadfast and devoted to that nest. And she gets how to stay close, and her children will benefit. So this heart of ours that holds this treasure, what are the kinds of treasures we might find? Well, you won't know until you look, but some of the ones that I think all of us might find are insights, sometimes some ahas, perhaps some guidance, some wisdom. We might also find comfort here, reassurance, peace, all kinds of things, all kinds of goodness here. The 14th century mystic Julian of Norwich wrote a classic called Revelations of Divine Love. And in there she wrote, all is well, all manner of things shall be well. And it's pretty profound that she wrote that, because she suffered a lot in illness. And she was spiritual director to her village in Norwich, and probably people came from all over the place, who were at that time there was a lot of poverty, there was plagues, there was famine. So you can imagine there was a lot of suffering. But she said these words were not her words. She said Jesus told her these words. And she really related to them and found them credible and convincing because she also had very graphic visions of Jesus suffering on the cross that she wrote about. And so she knew they came from a divine human being who knew what suffering was about. That too is a big piece of how I connect to Jesus and Mother Mary and some of these avatars, master teachers who have actually walked the earth, who have actually come in the body and come down to 3D density and said, oh, okay, well, they walked this path that we're walking. They know what it's like to grieve. They know what it's like to not feel well. They know what it's like to worry about how much money you're going to have to pay your bills. They know what it's like to lose love or to lose the physical presence of someone you've loved or walked beside for decades or to lose a child. They know what it's like to suffer or to have pain. And so Julian of Norwich said, that's why when I heard the words from Jesus, all shall be well, all shall be well, all manner of things shall be well. It wasn't just, she didn't say this, but I'm saying this. It wasn't just some casual sort of blind-eyed spiritual bypass. It wasn't just some pretty words to say to make us feel better. It was real, real. Out of the depths of suffering and pain comes the knowing that all shall be well, that all manner of things shall be well, because it's the undercurrent of truth. It's the thing that comes out of the sacred heart of the Spirit. And when the sacred heart speaks and we're close enough to hear it, we know it too. And so whatever befalls you, whatever is breaking your heart, whatever is concerning your mind, all shall be well. It's not a platitude. It's a knowing. So different. So different. Yes? A knowing. Candy, I love you. Julian also wrote this, peace and love are always in us, being and working, but we are not always in peace and love. She says, pay attention to this. Pay attention to this. She's saying, pay attention to the fact it's always there. It's always available to you. It's always right here waiting for you to open the door, to let it out, to let it in, to be a part of it. And we're not always in it, which indicates there's something for us to do to get in. And it can be so simple, again, for us to just open the door and come inside and see what's here. How now? What's present now? How am I feeling in this moment? What's going on inside of my body? What's my mind so busy about? Why am I telling myself that story? Why am I being so harsh on myself? There's only love here. Let me give myself, my inner child, my hurting self, a little bit of that love. See, this is how we heal. It's really quite simple. So we vow to do our parts, right? These simple parts. To pay attention to the foundation that our lives themselves are made of love, that we ourselves are made of love, and that it's available to us always. It's here in our difficulties. It's here in our joys. It's here to reassure us and to comfort us and to encourage us on our path. It's here to celebrate and thrill with us. Love, the very essence of being that God thing that we can make into whatever it is we need it to be in any given moment. Our best friend, our mother, whatever it is. whatever it is, to know these things that are available to us, and then to open the door to receive, to discover the endless supply, the treasure trove that is here. I make this vow again and again and again to myself, to draw nearer to Spirit. And I say again and again and again for a reason, because I make the vow and then I sort of break the vow, right? I certainly drift from it, go into the chasm of separation. Anybody ever do this? Is this your journey too? But what's important is that we catch ourselves, we become aware, we realize, the pain and suffering I'm experiencing right now is because I kind of forgot. It doesn't mean that there won't still be some pain in life. You know, that's part of what we signed up for as human beings. And so, of course, things are going to come our way that are challenging for our human hearts. But so much help, so many little helpers here and big helpers. So much help available. If only we just open the door to it. Or just say that one simple prayer, help me. Help me. Help me. I mean, our affirmative prayers would tell us the principle side, right, that I talked about earlier. And that's kind of where we come from a lot in New Thought and in Unity, and I think it's really important. And I think there are days where it's important to just say, help me. Yeah? I don't feel like I have all the answers. I don't feel like right now I can claim my good. I don't feel like right now I can say those statements of truth that I know are true, but right now I just need to open my heart and say, help us. Help us. And the help is right there. Because we become aware of it, because we slow down, because we reflect, because we meditate, because we just listen to that piece of music and now we're in a completely different place, because we moved our body a little bit. I'm finding, oh, wow, what amazing thing this movement of body is. Do you do that? I mean, we danced last night, so you moved your body, those of you who were dancing last night. But even when you're not in a formal place where we're dancing, just to start moving a little bit, right? Even just right now while I'm moving, things come in a whole different way when you become conscious of your movements. You know, conscious. I'm in a group, and so we have partner practice and things like this, and so I was, and you move and witness, and I think I'm going to bring some of this to us when I get a little bit more further down the line here, so that I can actually bring you something with some better understanding. But anyway, while I'm in it, there's some amazing things happening. So the partner practice, I'm just moving, and the person's watching me on Zoom, and I talk, and then we switch roles, and while I'm talking, I'm just in my process, but I have a witness. So it's really powerful. And so I'm just moving, and I said, wow, oh my gosh, we've been to Hawaii. I mean, what a privilege, what a gift, what an amazing, we were with nine of us all together, Brenly's family. And we were busy, we did a lot of stuff. So I said, I don't know if I just got too busy in the activities and I didn't take it all in, but I know it's like such a sacred place, and it's such so many things. And then as I'm moving, I just realized, oh no, but it's all here. All the impressions are here, the sea turtles and the dolphins and the sunshine and the waves and oh, yes. Right? But we have to pause or we never know. See, I could have walked away from that gone, wow, that was a great vacation, but I was kind of busy and I didn't always take everything in. But instead I moved my body a little, and somebody came close and witnessed and then could reflect back. And I went, wow, yeah, it's all there. It's all here. See, we are constantly receiving these impressions in the world, and our body holds all this memory and wisdom and amazing stuff. But if we don't go close, if we don't come in and dance a little bit with it and say, hey, what's here? What's going on inside here? What's this energy? What's this sensation? What's this tension? What's happening here? And then all of a sudden an insight comes to our minds. We think we just thought a thought, but really, your body just released wisdom. It's amazing. You are amazing. Do you know that? Look at somebody and say, you are amazing. Wow, do you feel that energy? Whew. What if we walk through the world like that all the time and just like, everybody you meet, you are amazing, you are amazing. You know, you've heard probably the stress response, fight or flight. Everybody heard that before. Is that what you do when you're stressed? Yeah, some of us do, some of the time, right? Do you do anything else? Yeah, see, like I just heard a bunch of stuff. So there's a lot more to the story we've been told by scientists for so long. Oh, humans, they either flee or they fight. I don't always like those two choices. I think there's a whole lot more available to us, right? So Dr. Shelley Taylor and her colleagues at UCLA noticed the same thing. They said, you know, I do more than fleeing and fighting. And a colleague said, me too. And then they just started talking about it, and they started noticing in their patients, and they said, yeah, there's way more to this story. So they started doing a study, and they found that we have other stress responses, and they call it tend and befriend. I have a friend who said, you know, when I'm stressed, he said, I go to my cave, but when my wife is stressed, she circles the wagons. And so that's a bit of what they're talking about, right? And we do that, don't we? We gather in kitchens. We gather in, you know, wherever we can gather. We gather. We come together. We had our first women's group meeting with Barbara Gordon this week. 26 women gathering. Our men's group gathering in the kitchen last night to cook for everybody, you know? Yeah. That's what we do. We gather around friends and food, and it nurtures us. And it nurtures more than, of course, our bodies. It nurtures so many aspects. Like last night at the crab feed, if you think about it, our intent, of course, was to raise fun and raise funds for our community. Yet think about how much more happens. How much more happens when we come together? How many more needs get fulfilled? A sense of belonging, a sense of connection, a sense of I'm a part of something important and I'm valued. You know, there's so much that happens for us in these moments. So tending and befriending, connection, really. Lisa Witter and Lisa Chen wrote in Ode magazine several years ago, if the reigning ethos of our history was survival of the fittest, today's planet's temperature and our call, our new paradigm shift is survival of the connected. And it doesn't matter whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. We are wired for connection as human beings. You think about from the very beginning of our inception, we are made out of connection, out of the connection of two people coming together and making love in its initial form and all the other ways that happens today, two aspects coming together to make one being in love. Yeah. And then we're in the womb. And then there's childhood and all the connection that happens there and the needs for connection. And then there's all the milestones that happen in a lifetime. And then there's end of life that we always hope to be with our loved ones, or our loved ones often to be with us at those moments or prior to those moments and saying goodbye. So it is who we are, connected. We want somebody to be there with us. We want somebody to be there with us to cheer us on when we rise. We want somebody to be there with us to pick us up when we fall. We want somebody to be there to hold us when we need comfort. We want somebody who can see into us, to see the divine truth in us, to see the the good in us, the essence of us, don't we? And we also, I don't know if we want it, but we grow from it when we have somebody who can point out our blind spots. And so then we do want it once we realize that it helps us, right? We don't always want it in the moment. I do want that, but hold it. I don't want to hear, Write it down and I'll read it later. But this is what I've just described as friendship, isn't it? That's friendship. A kind of friendship where we have mutual support for one another, where we show up for each other in these different ways. So when we come closer, we also come closer to each other. It's another way that we come in closer. And if you are looking for a friend, I want to remind you that you have 8 billion possibilities. Step closer to one of them. Just one out of 8 billion. Make that your intent this week. I'm going to step closer to one out of 8 billion possibilities. And every week, maybe another step, right? Because it takes time to develop friendship, doesn't it? It takes time to build trust. It takes time to get to that point of intimacy, into me, see, which is really what we're after, I think. So I know a lot of us are in various places right now, but I also think some of us are looking for solace and comfort and community and connection. And maybe some of you are, I know some of us, I'll include myself in that, are grieving the life transitions of some of our community members, Ben Cabal and Egon Peterson, if you don't know. Egon was 97. He was often on the dance floor. And I think he was around 97. Anyway, he's close to that. Last I talked to him, he said he was 97. So anyway, so, I know you've got things on your heart that are in the community and maybe other things on your heart. So this Thursday, we're going to have a process and prayer circle just so we can come together and connect and see what's on your heart and pray together. So mark your calendar for that if that's speaking to you. So intimacy, something that we long for. But maybe you're longing for that. Maybe you're walking around saying, I want intimacy and I want love and I want friendship. And I don't know why it's not coming. And you haven't maybe looked to see what's going on here. Like the door is not only closed, but it's fully sealed. And there's maybe some locks there. And then maybe over that, there's some armor and perhaps a shield. I don't know why. I mean, I've been looking for love and intimacy and friendship, and I don't know why God doesn't deliver. But maybe one way is, perhaps if we could lower the shield, at least one step, right? But also if we could come back behind all that stuff and make the connection in here. Because maybe that's less scary. Because people sometimes hurt us, or we get hurt, I'll say, in relationships sometimes. And that's why all the armor and the shield and so on, right? But if instead we can start here where there's that everlasting love, that divine love, that mother-father consciousness of love, that permeating presence of the beloved friend, and make that connection be embraced in that, maybe it'll get us a little bit of courage to begin to open and come closer to someone else. So when we do that, we build bridges of trust. When we do that, we begin to let the fear fall away of being hurt, the fear of others fall away, and we begin to create trust, to know. Not necessarily that individual is going to deliver you all your needs. That's going to end badly, believe me, if you think that. But to just trust that we could be in this. We could be in this flow here together. We could be in this dance of humanity and divinity together. And we can hold hands and be, or stand next to one another and be in a parallel process together too, and support each other on our journey. There's lots of ways that we can come closer to one another. When we come near to other people, we learn something new about ourselves because we are mirrors to one another. And so when we're courageous enough to step closer in, to come closer to someone else, we begin to learn about them, about ourselves, about humanity. We deepen our compassion. Our ignorance falls away of what we thought about those people or people like that or whatever it is that we fill in our, separation consciousness. But by coming closer, we can even learn that we could love our enemies. Right? And I know a lot of us don't like that word, and we wouldn't think that we have any enemies. But, have you listened to yourself sometimes when you're watching the news? You sure you haven't made an enemy out of anyone? Yeah, and let's remember that we're here to love. It does not mean we're here to condone actions we don't agree with. And that is a very different thing that every parent knows. How many of us have helped children or parented children and known that you can love your child, but you're not necessarily going to condone their every action, right? And, tragically, it's true for children too that they have to learn this lesson to love their parents despite their parents' actions, right? So we know how to do this. We know how this goes. So let's not have any limitations on this principle to say, oh, but in this instance, it's different. Is it? There's a little girl and a little boy or a little being in every one of us. And so can't we just be love? We can, and we will, and we do. And it's how we heal. It's how we get the outcomes we want. In Africa, in certain tribes in Africa, it might be the Dagari, I'm not sure. If somebody in the community does something like steals or worse, some kind of crime is committed, they don't separate them off and put them in a prison. They put them in the center of the circle of the community because they understand that person did that because they forgot who they are. They forgot love. They forgot they are loved. And so they just heap the love upon the person. They remind that person of who they are. No punishment, just healing. It's beautiful, isn't it? What if we all did that? What if we operated that way? What a world. What a world we are creating together. So there's only love in the end, right? And in the beginning, and in this moment, and always. And we can be that embodied unconditional love, and we can come into that unconditional loving space that is created by others who can be in it at certain points. And the practice is to keep coming into it and to keep coming near so that it becomes secondhand. It becomes our nature to embody unconditional love. It becomes our nature to be grounded in it, to be centered in it, to be in an expression of it. We don't have to, bite that whole thing off in one, was that? Yeah, whatever that saying is. We don't need to, I think that sometimes what happens on our spiritual journey is that we make it like such a, like I should be, or I have to, or I must, or it's got to be all of these things. And it's like, I don't think I'll do any of it. I'm just going to turn on Netflix, But it's not all that. It's not that. It's not all that. If we recognize it's just right here. Oh, right. Sea turtle, sunshine, flowers, birdsong, the face of my friend that I saw today at church. Whatever it is, to be present to it is to be present to love, is to come closer in to the truth of who we are. So let's know this together. As the poet Hafiz says, it makes this promise of love, lets us know that love says this. It says, I will take care of you to everything that is near. So just come near, and all shall be well. Let's speak our affirmation together. I come in closer to the divine in myself and community, drawing comfort and strength. And so it is.